Devlin, Untamed. The platform.
Welcome to the podcast, people. iOS. It's only sport. It's only sport. It's only sport. That means that all we do is we talk about sport, we leave the politics, and all that bollocks to Sean Plunkett, who does it brilliantly between 7 and 10 every morning on the platform. Michael Laws, between 10 and 1, he does talkback, although Miles Davis sitting in for him for the next couple of days. And myself, Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore, we talk sport. A little bit of this, a little bit of that today. The NBA in-season tournament is on, began today. It's a brand new innovation to spark extra interest from outside the regular fan base. Is it working? Is it exciting? Is it attracting a new audience? The legend, that is Bob Ryan, joining us on the show, on the podcast. He's from the Boston Globe. Beauden Barrett re-signing with New Zealand Rugby. New Zealand Rugby is selling this as the greatest evidence that the current player eligibility rules are working. Are they? I mean, how does this help New Zealand domestic rugby again? He's missing the whole of next season's Super Rugby, mate. Mark Watson all over that in the ATM podcast. The future of the Com Games looks grim. Does it even have one? Where, when, who is going to grab the baton that the Gold Coast just dropped and run it all the way to the opening ceremony in 2026? Steve Robilliard has covered 8 Commonwealth Games. He's a freelance journo now out of Australia. Joins us to talk about that. And Tiger. Did he look like a winner in the Bahamas on the weekend? Will he ever win another PGA golf tournament? What is his future? Matt Vincenzi joins us to talk about that. But as always, we begin, tablets in hand. I say, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Is Beauden Barrett re-signing for New Zealand Rugby really, as New Zealand Rugby says, a signal that all is well in our domestic rugby world? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
No, New Zealand Rugby, you are wrong. The Beauden Barrett deal is not a great example of how you've solved All Black eligibility rules at all. What you've done is just once again bowed to player power to the detriment of your local professional competitions. In this case, Super Rugby. Competitions, unless you're completely deaf, dumb and blind, that are failing in front of you, that no longer command an audience, that have only been losing their audience for years, that people clearly have no engagement with. How is Beauden Barrett missing Super Rugby next year solving anything? Great. He's back for the All Blacks. Great. That's excellent news for the All Blacks. Well done, Razor. You got your own way. But once again, it is and only is all about the All Blacks, the top of the pyramid. The problem with New Zealand Rugby stems from the bottom, where there is no base to build upon. Don't you guys get this? How do you not get this? Obviously, at NZR HQ, they don't. Because yesterday, Head of Professional Rugby Services Manager and Management of Rugby Services from a professional capacity, Chris Lendrum, went all goo-goo gaga about how great this is for New Zealand Rugby, keeping our best players here playing. Chris, memo, he's not playing here, mate. He misses all of Super Rugby next year. So does Artie, Sam Cane, Geordie. These are the stars that people pay to see, that they want to see play. It's like the NBA saying, hey, people, brilliant news. We've signed LeBron, KD, Steph and Giannis right through till 2027. This is just brilliant for the NBA and all our fans. But hey, they won't be playing next season. They're all in China playing a domestic competition over there, earning mega bucks. But they're going to be back to play the in-season tournament next Christmas. Chris, this is still the tail wagging the dog. Once again, you are paying nothing but lip service to your bread and butter and putting every egg you have in the All Black basket. This is an administration so desperate to try and keep interest alive in their fading competitions that they spent millions signing RTS, remember, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, millions in another failed experiment. Because no one's watching Super Rugby or watching the NPC, and they thought that, hey, we'll get a guy over from a league and that'll put eyes on the prize, won't it? Well, no, it didn't. And this is not how you rescue a domestic competition. The only person who comes out of this deal with a tick in his favour starts with Barrett and ends in Beauden.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Your call's always welcome. Your thoughts always welcome. 5050 on the text. And Lachlan, sports news headlines. I'm trying to make it dramatic.
Well, okay. How do I make it dramatic? I'm talking about the white things to start off with.
Oh, God, are you?
Well, I'm just saying that they're underway in their match.
And the score is?
Well, okay. Well, supposedly the match got underway 13 minutes ago, and Pakistan are 19 without loss already. What a start.
They did win
Is
the
that
first
dramatic
one,
enough for you?
Well, if they win this one, it's a series win. Remember that they're creating history. They beat us for the first time on the weekend.
Yeah. There are some players who, I won't lie, I have not heard of. No. We're bowling first, of course. Sorry, never mind. Excuse me, never mind. So, 19 without loss are Pakistan. They're through 3.2 overs in the second of 3 T20s. This one down in Dunedin as well at Susie Bates Oval is what it's been called for this match. According to the live win probability, New Zealand have 79% chance of winning.
Oh, did they start with this? And there's only 3 overs have been bowled.
Yeah, I love it when they do this. So they do this in the Premier League after like 6 minutes and predict who's going to win. It's like, it doesn't... So
I can
what?
predict straight away when Man United kick off. A, we're going to concede 2 goals, and B, we're going to play like crap.
And then your players will complain that it's the manager's fault,
We'll
not
talk
theirs.
about that a little later on, yeah.
Sticking with cricket, Black Cap spin bowler Ish Sodhi believes there is plenty to learn from their hosts ahead of the second test. Plenty to learn, yeah, I hope so. This is what Ish Sodhi had to say. It is obviously tough to come out on the losing side in that first game in Sylhet, but I think as the test progressed, we found a bit more rhythm. Obviously, I haven't played test cricket in a while, so it's always going to be tough in these conditions. You know what, can I just ask that we just don't talk to cricketers? Now, nothing but respect for our cricketers, and I like Ish Sodhi. We've had him on the show. He's a nice guy. He's a pretty cool dude, I hear. We're not close mates, but I hear he's a bit suave. Anyway, just the stuff they say.
Yeah, it's all just
it's
honestly, it's been written by the PR department, hasn't it?
It is.
Yeah. They have drummed the character and the personality out of these players. It's such a shame.
Here's something a bit dramatic for you, Martin.
Oh, man, give me drama.
Grant Dalton,
Yes.
Chief Executive of the 37th America's Cup in Barcelona next year, has admitted Saudi Arabia is in the running to host the 2028 edition of sport's oldest international trophy after a, quote, hugely successful regatta in Jeddah over the last 3 days. In an interview with Telegraph Sport, Dalton also dismissed concerns about sports washing, saying the Saudis were excellent hosts and partners.
Go on.
Cha-ching. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Can you
Actually, I'm not sure whether or not I have heard any athlete that has gone to Saudi Arabia saying anything other than that. Is there there is a reason. Okay. Plenty of it.
Now, I think I mentioned this yesterday. Not too sure if... I'm pretty sure I did. I think I mentioned it in the news yesterday, but I'll mention it today again because it's great news. Warriors captain Tohu Harris extending his contract. Now, his contract is now through until the end of 2025. He was off contract at the end of this coming season, the 2024 season, which of course starts in, I think, March next year. The television match official from the Rugby World Cup final has stepped away from the international game for the foreseeable future.
Good, you wrecked the game, mate.
Blaming a torrent of criticism and abuse online, Martin.
I better delete that Kylie Bunny 13 account of mine, hadn't I, Lachlan?
Why is it always Kylie Bunny 13? Do you know someone... Was there an account that followed you many years ago?
Because I am a lesbian virgin selling my sexuality to the highest bidder.
Look, if there's a Kylie Bunny 13, I would imagine that she is some TikTok cam girl that doesn't wear many clothes as opposed to a lesbian.
No. Kylie Bunny 13 is actually a greasy fat guy who lives at home with mum and doesn't wear pants when he's on the keyboard.
Yes.
That's Twitter.
Or someone trying to steal money out of your account from the subcontinent.
Go on.
Yeah. English official Tom Foley made a series of big calls, that's what it's been described as, here in the title match between the All Blacks and the Springboks in Paris not last month, it was in October, including recommending a red card for All Blacks captain Sam Cane in the first half. The Springboks winning 12-11. He copped a barrage of abuse, as did Wayne Barnes, and Tom Foley can't handle it anymore. He's stepping away. And you know what? Fair enough. I would as well. I mean, there's no point copping all of that. If you don't need to, step away for a bit.
Switch your accounts off.
Well, people can't do that in this day and age, Martin, because social media... you can't really get by without social media in this day and age.
Plenty of people do.
Yeah, people in your age range. Yeah. Because you didn't grow up with it.
What age range do you think Tom Foley is? He's not your age, mate. He's my age. What are you doing on social media?
He's in his 30s or 40s. He's in his 30s or 40s.
All right, I'll take that.
How old are you, Martin?
In my 40s, 47, Lachlan, as a matter of fact. Looking forward to my 50th birthday in a couple of years.
I'm sure you are. The Premier League has agreed a new record of £6.7 billion domestic television deal for Sky and TNT to show up to 270 live games this season. Shouldn't you be showing all the games live?
No, they don't. They actually carve off a whole lot of games. So this is how they make... Look, to watch the Premier League in England, you need 6 or 7 different decoders or streaming
So
services.
it's actually like the US with the NFL. I've had this talk with my dad, because it's actually better to have Game Pass in New Zealand because you get access to all the games, but in the US you don't.
No, you don't. No.
Yeah. The deal includes the BBC continuing to show highlights on Match of the Day. Paul Heckingbottom, what a great name, Paul Heckingbottom, is set to be sacked as Sheffield United manager within the next 24 hours. And Manchester City have been charged by the FA with failing to control their players in Monday morning, should I say, is a 3-3 Premier League draw with Tottenham. Players surrounded referee Simon Hooper when he awarded a free kick to City late in stoppage time after it looked like Jack Grealish was through on goal. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
You better believe it!
The platform.
Well, you know this is going to get right up his goat. Beauden Barrett has re-signed with Mark Watson's beloved Blues, but he won't be playing Super Rugby until the season after next. He's done this before, hasn't he, where he signs to play and then he doesn't actually play. But New Zealand Rugby are trumpeting this as being the greatest thing, well, since the last batch of players decided to take sabbaticals. I don't get it. Sure, it's great for the players. I understand that. But how is it good for New Zealand Rugby again? How is it good for Super Rugby? How is it good for the domestic product? How is it good for the Blues? The ATM podcast, episode 64, Mark Watson. Yesterday, Chris Landrum, hero of this is working. He said, this is absolutely the best example of how we can never relax the eligibility rules for All Blacks. And how the hell can that guy honestly look himself in the mirror and stand there and spout this crap when Beauden Barrett's not playing in New Zealand, Mark? That's the whole point. He's missing the Super Rugby competition.
Oh, I know. Look, I just want someone from New Zealand Rugby to actually just stand up and actually say to us and admit to us that the game is in crisis. Here is the strategic plan, and actually go back retrospectively, historically, and say, well, look, we all know what the NPC now looks like. We've got Wellington now moving out of stadiums and playing at Porirua Park, and I'd imagine Auckland, everybody else is going to follow suit, such as the lack of interest. And then for some reason, they still believe that Super Rugby is this premier product, that it's the world's greatest rugby product outside of international rugby, and it's not. And the fact that you have people like News Hub jumping up and down and saying that, hey, Beauden Barrett's, it's going to save Super Rugby. It's just dumb stuff, and it's just poor governance from the board, and it's poor leadership. Look, you're right. I mean, Sam Cane, our All Black captain, not playing. Artie Sevier not playing. Beauden Barrett not playing. And this is in addition to a large group of players who've either retired from rugby after the World Cup or permanently heading offshore. So in a year where it's going to be a constant rebuild, our players that technically are available but have decided to take the money overseas are not available either. And you've got a competition where Australia are weak. We no longer have South Africa. And you're trying to tell me that somehow next year's Super Rugby is going to be appointment viewing. It's going to be the default setting at night, and we're all going to get excited and we're all looking forward to it. I mean, there might be a degree of that amongst some people, but compared to what we once had to where we are is just an absolute joke.
Look,
Martin.
don't forget also that this is an administration that spend millions, and that is millions because his salary was at least $1 million every year, hiring Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, thinking he was the answer and he was going to put eyes on the prize and bums on seats. This is just desperado stuff, isn't it? I mean, I call it the tail wagging the dog. And good on Beauden Barrett. Good on any player that signs this kind of deal, because as an employee, if you can get your employer to go, okay, yeah, for 6 months, you can bugger off and take a much better pay packet over there and we'll keep your job for you. Crikey dick, every single person put their hand up and take it. But New Zealand Rugby, you've lost the plot. How does this in any way enhance Super Rugby? I'm so with you, Mark. It doesn't. The guy's not playing, Chris. That's what you've signed him up for, not to play in New Zealand, mate. I mean, I don't care what happens in 2 years' time, Mark. 2 years' time, we've got another shite Super Rugby season to absorb.
Yeah, I know, but look, he had a sabbatical in Japan only a few years ago. I mean, how many more sabbaticals do you need? I mean, what is the definition of sabbatical? It's not a definition of sabbatical. It's a break from New Zealand rugby. It's a cash grab. But look, you look at the financial state of the unions around the country. We look at the facilities, and you've only got to go and talk to the Ponsonby rugby clubs, and arguably the most successful club in New Zealand. They struggle to get decent floodlights. They still haven't got a home ground after Western Springs was washed out in the floods and the storms. And here we are deciding that we want to go and spend, you said it, be well and truly above $1 million a year on Beauden Barrett. To me, a player, and I say this, a player that I still believe is past his use-by date. I don't think he's going to get better. I think he's only going to get worse. We're still not sure what position he plays. I think under Scott Robertson, he's definitely going to be back in the first five type role. But what are we then doing in terms of the development of our next first fives? So we have Richie Mwanga, and then we have Beauden Barrett. And so what? In 3 years' time, we're back in the same position. We've brought no depth through. You know, I think one of the most successful eras in All Black rugby came off the back of the Baby Blacks, came off the back of taking some chances on some younger guys. Now, who are those younger guys? I'd still like to see Stephen Perifetta being given a decent chance in the 10 jersey. I think when he has played, he's looked absolutely magnificent. But it comes down to this. It comes back down to this whole economic thing of, opportunity cost. Where could we be better spending that money? Is really Beauden Barrett box office? Does he really bring people in? I mean, as an Auckland fan, I just actually have disdain for him because, yes, I just feel like he's using us. Well, I want to come back and play for the Blues, but not really. I need to take my cash grab first. You know, I just felt with him, he's sort of been in and out of the Blues. He doesn't put bums on seats, mate. We don't win a lot of All Black tests in the last 4 years with Beauden Barrett part of this All Black team. I just can't understand what the fascination is, mate. Now, if you're talking Scott Barrett, I'm on board. Scott Barrett, to me, is the next 4 years.
The NBA in-season tournament tipped off today. This is a brand new innovation from America's National Basketball Association, trying to attract a younger audience. And what they've decided is because English football do it, and they do it on an international basis where they have obviously the World Cup, they've got the European Championships, and then they've introduced this Nations Cup as well. And of course, you've got the English Premier League, got the Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, all of this. So they've decided in the NBA, hey, we need to do something similar. Well, what is the pickup? What is the take-up? Is it actually working? Is it exciting? Is it bringing in a new audience? Bob Ryan from the Boston Globe. Bob, the in-season tournament underway. Celtics versus Pacers kicking it off. Pelicans Kings. And then we've got two matches tomorrow. Are NBA fans really looking forward to this?
The idea, what we are being told by the league and is that there is an enthusiasm for it in terms of television ratings, which are significantly higher than the similar date a year ago, the similar games played in the beginning of December of a year ago. They think that it appeals to younger fans for a reason I'm not quite sure why that is, but that's what they think. And but the average fan can live without it. I think that the longtime fan. This is a Adam Silver obsession. He has decided that this is a necessary thing to try to create interest in the league before Christmas, when it's come the way it's evolved in America. Is that though opening day is in October, the opening day for many Americans is Christmas Day, when there are 5 games on and the league begins to attract more attention. But they want to speed up the process, if you will. But I've adopted an open mind. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see how the teams react to it, and we'll go from there. But I think Adam Silver is pleased with what he's seen so far.
Yeah, listen to Bill Simmons on his podcast, and I know that you know him well. He's given Silver, and I think it was an A+++++, saying it is a success, and he was musing as to whether or not this knockout stage in Vegas is going to take headlines away from the NFL, which I suppose is one of the big reasons for doing it for the NBA.
Well, I can't see it not yet ever begin to approach diminishing interest in the NFL. It's just adding interest to itself. I disagree with Bill on that score, and I can live without it, but I understand that people seem to like it. The thing I don't like, though, that I think they should examine, and that is the tiebreaker in the opening round is point differential. And maybe aggregate in the world of soccer makes sense when you don't have many goals, but in the NBA, point differential could lead to some ugly events. And we had one such thing in the Celtic game against Chicago Bulls, when in order to get the 23 points spread that they needed in the hopes of advancing, they resorted to some tactics that did not look very good in the fourth quarter. They fouled Andre Drummond, a 47% career free throw shooter, deliberately 3 times, hacked Andre, as we said, to get the ball, to prevent them from scoring, and he cooperated by going 1 for 6 from the foul line. And then they left their starters in much longer than you would in an ordinary route. And this led to a confrontation at midcourt between Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla and Bulls coach Billy Donovan. And Joe had to calm Billy down and say, look, we have to do what we have to do. I'm sorry about this, and hope that that this doesn't have to happen again. It's not a good methodology in American basketball for point differential. They've got to think of something else for a tiebreaker.
Okay, so what they just need kind of manufactured results and kind of contrived goings on.
Absolutely, and it didn't. We're not used to that here. There's a etiquette. There's a courtesy. There's an unspoken rule about the way you handle yourself in a route, and the Celtics violated those rules and those unwritten rules, and then it didn't look good.
Bob Bryan is with us, wrote for the Boston Globe for years, just a wonderful friend of the show and a legend in reporting sport and in his part of the world. No Denver Nuggets. Does that take a bit of gloss off that the NBA champions aren't in this?
Not as much as you might think, simply because people, they don't say they thought they weren't worthy. They were worthy. They earned it. But they're not a glamour team. They don't have a wide national following. I think people can live without them, and until they're not. They don't have a cachet at all. They do have a wonderful player in Nikola Jokic. There's no question that, and he is the two-time MVP, and he's a marvelous player. I love watching him play, and most basketball fans do. But it hasn't had any effect, I don't think, on. As a matter of fact, there's some up-and-coming teams that people are interested in seeing, and so they can live without. This thing can get by without Denver.
Bob, in the end, whoever wins it, what's it going to actually mean? I mean, it's in Vegas. It's going to be showtime. There's going to be a lot of confetti from the sky. There's going to be fireworks going off, and somebody's going to hold up a bit of a silver trophy. But what does it actually mean?
The first thing it will mean is $500,000 to each player on the winning team. Now, this is pocket change for the superstars and the stars, but it's very significant money for the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th man. So, and there's a lot of discussion here that the stars are framing this. They're playing this thing out to enrich their teammates, their lesser paid teammates. That's nice if it's true. I'm not sure how much I believe that, but they're trying to sell that idea to us. There's I don't know how proud they're going to be. This is a novel idea for America. We know that in the world of international football, what we call soccer, that the multiple competitions are the norm. In England, you've got the FA Cup, of course, for years, as well as what's going on with the Premiership, and then you've got European championships and all that. We don't operate that way here, and of course the big difference between the way sports operate in America and they operate particularly in Europe is that in Europe, you win your regular season and you're the champion. And that's the end of it. But in America, that's only the beginning, because we have playoffs in all 5 sports, including soccer. We have the championship game about to be played here in our MLS soccer, and everybody else, the team, it's not winning the regular season that matters. It's winning the postseason, winning the playoff. And the best example of that is the National Hockey League, where they have a President's Cup for winning the regular season, and that team has only won Stanley Cup in the playoffs like 3 times in the last 10 or 12.
The Tight 5.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute on each with the bell. We move on to the next topic. Tom Foley quits. Is that good because he's incompetent and he wrecked the World Cup final? Now, I'm not being mean. I'm not sledging. I'm just saying facts. I mean, that is what most people believe. I'm not getting online. I'm not sending him foul messages or anything like that. For every single referee, if you're going to quit your job because you get a whole lot of twats and prats sending you messages on social media, is there another way of dealing with this? Because we're going to lose a lot of very good people, men and women, who officiate our sports if that's the case. Man United's dressing room. All right. Matt Vincenzi talking Tiger, but more importantly there, Jon Rahm is the sound of silence saying everything. Now, Tolf was telling us last Wednesday, he'll be back on the show tomorrow, he was telling us last Wednesday that this is the end of golf as we know it, the end of the world as we know it. If Jon Rahm signs for $600 million reportedly for LIV Golf, well, the fact that he won't return any calls or messages from his mates, is that a sign that he is about to sign? How is Beauden Barrett's deal good for New Zealand Rugby again? Lachlan, explain that again. The Commonwealth Games, is it up, gone, and that's the end of it? Steve Robilliard is going to talk to us about that shortly. And Jamie Wall was saying, yeah, we need to support women's rugby. I agree with that, but what the hell is the plan? Let's kick it off with that, because it's not very often I disagree with Jamie. But when you ask Sky Sport for figures as to who's watching women's rugby, and they send you a percentage saying that this is the percentage increase of viewers watching, what does that tell you, Lachlan? I mean, look, Sky TV, you aren't a PR department. You know, you're not a government department with 9,000 people working in communications trying to fudge replies to these questions. Your obligation to us as customers is to give us honest answers. I don't want to know what the increase is. I want to know what the increase is when you tell us what the viewing figures are. Why won't they tell us what the viewing figures are, Lachlan?
Well, it's a bit like at survey parties in radio back when we worked in mainstream New Zealand radio, that they would, instead of bringing up their percentage, their numbers, the where 7 point this or 21 point that, they'd say, oh, we've got 450,000 listeners nationwide. It's like, yeah, but did your audience go up or down?
That's
what's going on
here?
Exactly. What cume is what they call it.
That's it. Yep. So what it is it's a breakdown, because when you don't actually have to sell what it is you want to sell, then you pick something else out of it and you go, oh, look at this over here as a distraction.
Yeah.
Oh, that big, bright, shiny thing, go in that direction.
Yeah, 25 to 29-year-old males who are bisexual, look how well we do with them. So it's a bit similar in the sense that you can say that you've gone up by 10%, or your viewership of women's rugby on Sky can say that, but like,
where did it start from?
It's like exactly. If I said, I got a 10% pay rise. Oh, what were you on? Oh, 30K. It's like, so you're on 33 now.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. So it does. It puts a completely different perspective on it. Okay. When we talk about our audience here at the platform, we have had 12.5 million people engage with us throughout via all the social media channels in the last 12 months. 12.5 million separate engagements. Is that an impressive figure? In the last month alone, over 500,000. That's a reasonably impressive
I think those
figure.
are both pretty impressive.
Okay. Leading up to the election, massive figures. A couple of 100,000 people a day listening to the station. I mean, those are figures, and that's what we're trying to sell. So Sky TV and Sky Sport, first and foremost, look, you can't be embarrassed about this. We're starting somewhere with women's rugby, with women's cricket, with women's football. It's an organic growth. You just have to... This is our audience right now. You can tell how big the audience is for the Women's Phoenix because those are the people that pay to turn up on the weekend. That's where it starts from. We want to grow that audience from the 1,500 or the 1,700 into a few thousand. But you can't do this unless you are honest up front about it right from the rest of it is just BS PR, isn't it?
Yeah.
Matt Vincenzi, talking there. Let's go back to that. Play me a little of this on Jon Rahm.
I think he is going to take it from everyone I've talked to, and I've talked to some people who are pretty close to the situation. The one caveat being LIV is still denying that it's happening, and they won't say anything. They're dead silent on the matter. People who I've talked to in the past who share a lot of information are refusing to share a single word about this. I think whether they don't want to spook him or whether he's really adamant that it's kept quiet. I've also heard that there's a group text going on in the Ryder Cup European team that he's involved in, and Rory is looking for answers from Rahm, and all the guys are texting, and Rahm will not respond to those texts. That's what I've heard. To me, it seems like all the signs are pointing to him going.
Golf Rodder for WRX. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? He's a guy who's no longer returning messages to his mates. They're asking the question. He's not responding to the question. See, straight away, I'm a suspicious person. I'm a cynical person, obviously, and a suspicious person, and straight away I'm thinking, there's only one reason why he's not responding, and that's because he can't be honest. It's the same as Sky Sport. It's the same as what Jamie was saying. The reason that they're not giving you figures is because they're embarrassed about those figures. So there's almost more being said with what's not being said. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. If it's not true, then what would stop you from saying it's not true?
It's not true. I'm not going
it's
to
like
LIV
Eddie
Golf.
Jones when people ask him about the Japanese rugby interview.
Oh, no, hell no. And said his approach was to attack the journalist that asked the question, wasn't it? How dare you question my integrity? Where did that story come from? There's no truth to it. Oh, you're leaving Australian rugby and now you're back up in Japan. Okay. So
unless for whatever reason Rahm doesn't want to say anything whatsoever to fellow golfers, because Matt Vincenzi said there that on this chat is people from the Ryder Cup team.
Well, he knows as soon as he says something, it's going to be reported, isn't it?
Yeah, but if he says Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
He's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone, just
Or
like
he's
the
at least
Commonwealth Games.
negotiating maybe a bit more money.
Commonwealth Games, going to talk to Steve Robilliard about this in about half an hour or so. Mark Watson, the ATM podcast, coming up next. Commonwealth Games, yesterday, announced by the Gold Coast that they don't want to do it. Now, Lachlan, think about this for a second, because I was pondering this overnight. The Gold Coast have already hosted the Commonwealth Games, right? They hosted the one before Birmingham. So they've got everything in place already to host that event, right?
Yes.
And
unless they've torn some of it down.
Still going to cost them around $700 million, they reckon. So you've already got your infrastructure in place. That is why it's no longer going to go.
And the fact that they hosted it only 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, like, they're sitting there going, it wasn't worth it enough then to warrant us doing it again and footing this cost. So clearly they didn't make any money from it last time.
Clearly.
So
does it have a future at all? Steve Robilliard on that, surely.
it does not. I can tell you now.
Tohu Harris signing till the end of 2025. Who got the better deal here, the Warriors or New Zealand Rugby with Beauden Barrett?
That's a good one. I'd lean towards saying the Warriors because it's a simple one-year extension for a player who you need to keep, who hasn't got too many years left, so he won't be around for much longer. I wonder if after his contract runs out, he'll go to the Super League or just retire, Tohu Harris. Look, you're not, I won't say against it, but you're very critical of the re-signing of Beauden Barrett. I think it's good overall because it keeps him in the black jumper and playing in a position that we are, I won't say thin, but there's question marks over it.
I agree with that. I agree with all of that. I just don't like the way it's that New Zealand Rugby
he's not. Well, so I mean, what has NZ Rugby really said over the last year or two that has impacted our lives? You know, we've wanted them to say this, go, oh no, well they said that, oh they spun this that way, my tea's gone cold. You know, like I don't care what New Zealand Rugby say, how they spun. I don't care what they do because as far as I'm concerned.
Because I own it.
Everyone in that organisation is an idiot. In the administrative roles,
until proven otherwise. My father used to say this. He said, just assume everyone is an F-wit until proven otherwise.
A couple of guys that I liaise with through my job that I like, but a lot of the people in the jobs that they do, particularly on that board, that bloke last year who came out and said it's too hard to watch the All Blacks. It's too hard to keep up with the All Blacks.
There was a board member saying that last year. They were on every week, knucklehead. Yeah.
Don't you have a stake in the broadcaster that, plays it?
Let me just establish a couple of things here. I really like Beauden Barrett, and I think he's great that he's with New Zealand Rugby, but I just don't like this PR spin where they're trying to sell us that this is brilliant for the Blues. He's not playing for the Blues next year. I think Tohu Harris re-signing is great as well for the Warriors because he is one of those guys who I don't know a single sports fan that, even if you support other teams, doesn't like Tohu Harris.
Yeah.
He's just one of those dudes, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of rugby league players. I mean, you look at him on one extreme, Tohu's over here, Jerome Luai is over here.
God, I thought you were going to say Reece Walsh.
Jerome, but those are the extremes, aren't they? Yeah. Everyone hates you, Jerome Luai, apart from the Panthers fans. Everyone loves you, Tohu, even the Panthers fans.
Yeah.
That's fair?
That's fair.
We'll talk more about this.
Actually, just quickly, Beauden Barrett I don't think is that widely disliked, though.
No, I don't think he is.
No. I mean, Canes fans might not like the fact that he left and went to the Blues, but other than that...
Well, okay, that should have caused much more of an uproar at the time than it did.
Yeah.
But again, it's just reflective of the fact there is no real engagement with New Zealand Rugby fans and their super franchises.
No maniacal fandom.
No, there's not. There just isn't. The Commonwealth Games. We've got to join together and let laughter fill the air. That was the theme song, 1974, when we had it in Christchurch. And it was one of the world's pinnacle sporting events. It is that no longer. We all know that. But still, does it deserve a place on the international sporting calendar? Gold Coast have said no, costing too much money. We don't want it. And this is after Victoria gave up the rights to it, after Durban gave up the rights to it. And remember, Birmingham last year only got it because Durban said no. Alberta, who were meant to host it in 2030, they pulled out as well. Does it even have a future? Steve Robilliard has been to 8 of these events. His thoughts. Steve, news yesterday, and I don't know whether it's any great shake or surprise from where you are, but it just seemed kind of inevitable. The Gold Coast pulled out, and this is on the back of Melbourne pulling out, and that's on the back of Durban pulling out, and now we get Alberta in 2030. This is the death knell for the Commonwealth Games, isn't it?
Well, I hope it's not, but it feels like it, doesn't it? Like a lot of countries, and maybe New Zealand, Australia's kind of swimming in debt at the moment, and to suddenly try and stump up for another big games when Queensland is really focused on the Olympics in, 32, look, it's not a surprise. But, you know, I've been lucky enough to go to the last 8 Commonwealth Games. And I went to Birmingham last year and came away so optimistic about the future of the Games because they did a fantastic job. And it was really well supported and attended, and the people of Birmingham were right behind it, and it just felt like, you know, it was all back to where it should be, and a great Games was had. And then, you know, as we know, Dan Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, pulled the pin on Victoria a few months ago, and they go, oh, what's happened? And it's very difficult for any city, 3 years out, less than 3 years now, to find the venues and the money and make it happen. So it's hard to see if it's going to be held on time, if it's held at all.
When you say that, though, I mean, my mind just starts ticking and going, look, how many places around the world within the Commonwealth where there are the facilities already? You know, there's no sense and sensibility here where somebody can say, listen, let's not overexpend, you know, and try and build something that's actually not there, and let's actually look at what we already have in place somewhere.
What I guess it was thought of and ruled out for some reason, but when it first happened that Victoria pulled out, national embarrassment. Can I just say that I'm as ashamed as anybody that it's us that's pulled the pin on it. But my first reaction was, well, okay, Victoria's going to have to pay some compensation. I think they stumped up about 280, 300 million to the Commonwealth Games Association. Okay, so there's money in the kitty. Can you not go back to Birmingham and say, look, you did such a great job, we're in a hole, could you host it again? But I guess they didn't have the appetite for it, or the thing, it's not just whether the venues exist, it's whether they're available, because they get booked out for big events years in advance. And I think that's as much a problem as any of the multiple other ones.
Is it possible to actually, and I've always been a great advocate of this for the Olympics, again, just to stop the extravagance that is trying to build everything and host this, that you just pick a place and go, okay, that's its spiritual home, just have it there.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the recent history, say, you know, Delhi hosted it in 2010, so it did go to India, and to be brutally fair, they didn't do a great job. They damaged the brand. But in 2014, it went to Glasgow, and they did a great job. And since then, I felt it's rolled along okay. It went to the Gold Coast and then Birmingham. I would be quite happy if England, as the kind of sentimental core of the Commonwealth, did host it permanently, because the other nations are just not putting their hand up. Like as you've mentioned, Canada and South Africa in recent times have both pulled the pin on possible bids, and it only ended up in Birmingham because Durban did pull out. So if South Africa and Canada aren't interested, that kind of, financially, that kind of leaves it recently Australia and the UK as places where it could be. And I would be in favour of it being in Birmingham. They did such a great job. If they were up for it, I wouldn't mind if it was in one place, because the African countries, they're not up for it, and neither is the Caribbean. It's we've got a very limited number of countries that are willing to do it at all.
On a political level, Steve, the Commonwealth Games and the very reasons behind why it was first formed, we have this philosophical debate in New Zealand all the time about colonisation and so forth. Is it kind of just done its time because of that?
Yeah, look, I hear those arguments, and some of them are really quite strong and hard to push back against. The thing is, when you're in the middle of it, like once every 4 years, there's this great feeling around it when you're actually there. But I don't know whether those bonds, those ties, those feelings extend beyond those few weeks.
Yeah, right.
But what I was doing the gymnastics, as I generally do at these games, and my co-commentator, Liz Chetkovich, and I was sort of reflecting on the games at one point and the different feeling it has to the Olympics, where everything is so intense and where winning matters so much, that there's a different feeling. There's not the fear of failure at the Commonwealth Games. It's a more genuine sporting experience in that, I don't know, people are there to participate, meet other people, have some kind of cultural exchange, and not be afraid if they don't win. It's more about participation, and I kind of like what that meant, and because I do both, and I kind of think the feeling around the Commonwealth Games is different and refreshing in a way. If you're an old style bit of a purist, like I think I can brand myself as, I quite like the feeling around it, but that I don't know that carries a lot of weight against some of the political and other arguments against it.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Matt Vincenzi all over the Hero Challenge in the Bahamas on the weekend. This was the first appearance of Tiger Woods on a golf course since the Masters earlier this year. He says he's going to play till he decides that he can no longer win a tournament. Well, when is that? Is he realistic with those ambitions? Can he ever win another golf tournament? Matt, all over it for us. All eyes on Tiger Woods, who hadn't played since the Masters. He finishes even par 18th. So how do we assess that performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive, just the fact that he could play 4 rounds and his body held up, and I think he hit a lot of fairways, which was a good sign for him. And a lot of his mistakes came around the greens and on the greens, which I think is just rust and a little bit of sloppiness, and I think that can be taken care of. But overall, I think it was a pretty good performance.
So did we see the old Tiger?
No. I don't think we'll ever see the old Tiger, and I'm kind of in the camp where I don't think he can win again for the most part, because I don't think he can play enough to get into a rhythm. I know he talked about playing once a month going forward, and that might be in his mind enough to keep him sharp, but I think he needs to play a regular schedule, not a huge one, but 10 or 12, 15 events so he can get into a rhythm, lead up to an event, and have his best stuff. But I just think playing once a month is not going to be enough for him to have his, ever reach that top level.
In terms of his swing, I mean, there's also so much analysis on this with all the injuries and everything. How has that changed?
The swing's definitely changed to where his swing speed is down. He was able to get it out there a lot this week, but that's kind of the case at the Hero World Challenge. And he hit a lot of fairways, but the fairways are really wide. So I think he's focused more on control than power and speed. And I think you saw him a much bigger, bulked up Tiger, and I think a big reason for that was he wanted to overcompensate what he lacked in his lower body strength with some more upper body strength, and that definitely seemed pretty good. He was definitely getting it out there, but I think overall he's going to be focused on a more controlled style of golf where he's hitting as many fairways as possible, strategic play, that kind of same Tiger we saw in 2019 when he won the Masters.
Are the top golfers in the men's game now that much better than where he is and where he can get to?
I think so. I think there's just so much speed and power, and I think also the depth of talent on the tour is so strong, especially at the top end, that I think in order to compete with them, he has to, have a perfect week. And like he said, the recovery that goes into it when he plays, it takes him 2 weeks to recover, and then a week to ramp back up, and then the 4th week he can play. So I just think the fact that he has to take 2 weeks after 1 week of playing to recover and let his body heal is not going to allow him to get to where he needs to be. And at 47 years old, the body doesn't, react that quickly to the treatment that he's getting.
How was his demeanour, his attitude, and just him generally playing on the course and also dealing with everything that he has to deal with off the course?
I thought he looked great. I thought demeanor-wise he was awesome. I thought one of the times we saw him before, a couple of weeks before his car crash, he seemed a little out of sorts and kind of a little, spacey in his interviews. I thought this week he looked a lot better, and his body language was good. He was walking much better. He was much less of a limp, especially on Saturday and over the weekend. His limp was noticeably less. So I think, and what he said was his body was really reacting to the treatment that he was getting, and it was really working. So I think overall it's a positive sign, especially for his mental, emotional, his spirits going into the week. I thought it seemed like even he was pleasantly surprised with the results that he got.
Finally, let's talk about Jon Rahm. All the rumours circling. Any more news about whether he is going to take this $600 million deal to go to LIV? I laughed when I read JJ Watt saying that he would use physical force to make him sign. It's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think it's going to be 600 like cash. I think from the reports that I've seen and the people I've talked to who are really close to the situation. And by the way, the reports I'm getting are that he is definitely signing. Before the Friday meeting that Yasser, has with Jay Monahan, but I think it's $300 million from what I heard, paid over the course of 6 seasons, so $50 million a year. That other $300 million is just what they're anticipating will be the team equity by the time that contract runs out, whether that comes to fruition or not. But I think it's $300 million cash. I think he is going to take it from everyone I've talked to, and I've talked to some people who are pretty close to the situation. The one caveat being LIV is still denying that it's happening, and they won't say anything. They're dead silent on the matter. People who I've talked to in the past who share a lot of information are refusing to share a single word about this. I think whether they don't want to spook him or whether he's really adamant that it's kept quiet. I've also heard that there's a group text going on in the Ryder Cup European team that he's involved in, and Rory is looking for answers from Rahm, and all the guys are texting, and Rahm will not respond to those texts. That's what I've heard. To me, it seems like all the signs are pointing to him going, but to this point, nothing yet.
Wow. Okay. So sound of silence says everything.
Yeah, and last time there was rumors like a couple months ago or towards the middle of last year that there were rumors that he was going, and he was the first one. He went on Twitter himself and denounced it and said that I'm not going, you've heard wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And this time there's complete silence everywhere. So to me, that's as telling as anything.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Have you seen my wiener?
The Platform.